Grandparents of the parents of a person's father or mother, paternal or maternal. Every sexually reproducing creature who is not of genetic chimera has a maximum of 4 genetic grandparents, 8 genetic great-grandparents, 16 genetic great-great-grandparents, 32 genetic great-great-great-grandparents, 64 genetic great-great-great-great-grandparents, etc. Although the numbers will be lower in cases of pedigree collapse. In the history of modern humanity, around 30,000 years ago, the number of modern humans who lived to be grandparents increased exponentially. It is not known for certain what spurred this increase in longevity, but it is generally believed that a key consequence of 3 generations being alive together was the preservation of information which could otherwise have been lost. An example of this important information might have been where to find water in times of drought. In cases where parents are unwilling or unable to provide adequate care for the children, grandparents often take on the role of primary caregivers. Even when this is not the case, and particularly in traditional cultures, grandparents often have a direct and clear role in relation to the raising, care and nurture of children. Grandparents are second-degree relatives and share 25% genetic overlap. A step-grandparent can be the step-parent of the parent of the step-parent's parent of the step-parent's step-parent. The various words for grandparents at times may also be used to refer to any elderly person, especially the terms gramps, granny, grandfather, grandmother, and even more types that most families make up themselves, like Kulma, for youngest step-grandparents. The youngest grandmother in the world is Rifca Stanescu, a Romani girl from Romania who at the age of 12 gave birth to her first child. A girl called Maria. Maria, in her turn, gave birth to a child at the age of 11, thus making her mother Rifca the youngest mother in the world at the age of just 23 years. Titles. When used as a noun, grandfather and grandmother are usually used, although forms such as grandma, grandpa, granny, granddaddy, or even nan, pop are sometimes used. When preceded by my, all forms are common. All forms can be used in plural, but gramps is rare. In writing, grandfather and grandmother are most common, but very rare when referring to a grandparent in person. In speech, grandpa and grandma are commonly used in the United States, Canada and Australia. In Britain, Ireland, United States, Australia, New Zealand and, particularly prevalent in Newfoundland and Labrador, nan, nana, nanan, nanan, nana, nada, nanny, grand and granny and other variations are often used for her mother in both writing and speech. In many parts of Pakistan and India, maternal grandparents are called nana and nanny. Similarly, paternal grandparents are called dada and daddy. Numerous other variants exist, such as gramp, gramps, grandpa, grandpip, granda, grampy, granddad, granddaddy, grandpappy, pop, pap, pappy, and pawpaw for grandfather, grandmum, grandmama, granny, gran, nanny, nan, mamor, and grammy for grandmother. Go-go can be used for either, etc. Given that people may have 2 living sets of grandparents, some confusion arises from calling 2 people grandma or grandpa. So often 2 of the other terms listed above are used for one set of grandparents. Another common solution is to call grandparents by the first names or by the family names. In North America, many families call one set of grandparents by their ethnic names. Mandarin-speaking Chinese Americans refer to maternal grandparents as Popo and Gong Gong and paternal grandparents as Nina and Ye Ye. In the Philippines, grandparents are called Lolo and Lola, respectively. Languages and cultures with more specific kinship terminology than English may distinguish between paternal grandparents and maternal grandparents. For example, in the Swedish language there is no single word for grandmother. The mother's mother is termed mormor and the father's mother is termed farmer. However, the other Scandinavian languages, Danish and Norwegian, use words which specifies the kinship like in Swedish, as well as using common terms similar to head-mother, great-grandparents. The parents of a grandparent, or the grandparents of a parent, are called all the same names with the prefix great added, one for each additional generation. One's great-grandparents' parents would be great-great-grandparents. To avoid a proliferation of greats when discussing genealogical trees, one may also use ordinals instead of multiple greats. Thus, a great-great-grandfather would be the second great-grandfather, and a great-great-great-grandfather would be a third great-grandfather, and so on. This system is used by some genealogical websites such as Geni. One may also use cardinal numbers for numbering greats. For example, great-great-great-great-great-great-grandmother becomes 6x great-grandma. Individuals who share the same great-grandparents but are not siblings or first cousins are called second cousins to each other, as second cousins of the children of one's grandparents' siblings. History of the term. The use of the prefix grand dates from the early 13th century, from the Anglo-French ground. The term was used as a translation of Latin magnus. The prefix great represents a direct translation of magnus to English. In Old English, the prefixes ield and ieldra were used. A great-grandfather was called a thrid or fader, a great-great-grandfather a feo worth a fader, etc.